In the northeastern countryside in 1979, there was a famine. My wife was skin and bones, and her sister hadn't eaten for 2 days. In my previous life, I was a scumbag, ruining their family and driving them to ruin. Now, God has given me a second chance. I carried my horn bow into the mountains and shot a 180-pound sika deer with one arrow. On the way back home, Song Dahu and his brother tried to take my deer, but I bent 2 shotguns. I stewed the venison and brought the first bowl to my wife. She said, "Are you going to hit us again today?" I said, "From today on, I'll make you the happiest wife in the village." I clearly remembered jumping off the rooftop. But when I opened my eyes, I saw mud walls, an old wooden bed, and this beautiful yet familiar face in front of me. Lu Cece, my wife from my previous life, the woman I angered and killed. Tears at the corners of her eyes, red marks on her body, her voice trembling as she begged me. "You can have me as many times as you want a day. Can you give my sister something to eat? She hasn't eaten for 2 days." At that moment, my heart ached as if it were being cut with a knife. I remembered. 1979, northeastern countryside, a year of famine. I, Song Qing, was cheated out of all my money, owed a mountain of debt, and started drinking and gambling, selling off everything valuable in the house. Not only that, I beat and scolded my wife Lu Cece every day, and even planned to sell her sister Lu Yin to pay off my gambling debts. I was a beast. Cece. I hugged her tightly, my voice trembling. "From today on, I'll make you happy for the rest of your life." She didn't speak, just looked at me numbly. Numb. That look was more despairing than hatred. I smiled bitterly. I knew that saying I'm sorry 1,000 times was useless. I had to act. I went to cook. I let her go. She shook her head warily. No need. She didn't trust me. That was normal. I was about to say something more when there was a knock on the door. "Song Qing, you owe me money, and today's the day to pay it back." Songer. In my previous life, this bastard got me drunk and dragged me into gambling, and even cheated me with marked cards. I opened the door. Songer grinned, showing yellow teeth, but his eyes wandered toward the kitchen, staring at Lu Cece's back, and he swallowed. "Where are you looking?" My voice dropped. He averted his gaze and chuckled. "Song Qing, 20 yuan, you have to pay today. If you don't, I'll have my brothers come and beat you up." But he glanced at the kitchen again. "If you let your wife spend a night with me, the debt will be wiped clean." Before he finished, I slapped him hard. Smack. He fell to the ground, 2 yellow teeth flying far away. "You dare to covet my woman?" I kicked him in the shoulder. "Say one more word, and I'll kill you." Songer scrambled away, shouting as he ran. "You wait. I'll bring people tonight." I closed the door and turned to see Lu Cece standing at the kitchen door, still holding a spatula. She looked at me, and there was a hint of surprise in her eyes. Just a hint. But that was enough. I picked up the horn bow and hunting knife from the corner and headed out. I'm going to get some food. Lu Cece didn't stop me. I went out and plunged into the cold winter mountains. On the way, I ran into Song Dahu and Song Eru, the 2 brothers. These 2 bastards never got along with my family, always stepping on me during holidays. "Hey, Song Qing, with that broken horn bow of yours, you think you can hunt?" Song Eru spat. "If you can catch anything, I'll eat shit on the spot." I ignored them and strode up the mountain. The snow was up to my calves, but I ran all the way without getting out of breath. Something was wrong. I tried pulling the horn bow, a 10-stone hard bow, and I easily drew it to a full moon. I shot an arrow, and it thudded into a tree trunk 50 meters away, the arrowhead completely buried. Hiss. This strength, it's more than doubled. Stranger still, I suddenly heard a few sparrows chattering on the treetops. Winter is so boring, everyone is hibernating. Yeah, there are some sika deer in the mountain stream ahead. Let's go play there. Sika deer. I followed them immediately. I ran through the snow for over 10 minutes. And from afar, I saw 3 sika deer in the mountain stream. The largest one weighed at least 200 pounds. I crouched and crept closer, holding my breath. 300 meters, 200 meters, 150 meters. The male deer suddenly raised its head and looked around warily. Damn, I've been spotted. The deer let out a cry and bolted. I stood up abruptly, drew my bow, and knocked an arrow. Whoosh. The arrow flew over 100 meters and struck the last deer in the belly. It staggered 20-odd steps and collapsed into the snow with a thud, blood staining the white snow. I ran over and hefted the deer, at least 180 pounds. Enough. Enough to feed them for days. I hoisted the deer onto my shoulder and walked down the mountain through the snow. At the foot of the mountain, I ran into Song Dahu and his brother again. They were carrying a few wild chickens and rabbits. And when they saw the sika deer on my shoulder, their eyes went wide. Song. Song Qing. Song Da's jaw nearly dropped. You shot it with a horn bow? What else? I gave him a cold look. And you too? With shotguns, you only got this little? All show and no substance? Song Eru's face turned red. Who the hell are you calling all show and no substance? I said you're no good, and you're no good. You. Song Dahu stopped his brother, his eyes darting, then pointed at my deer and said, "This deer was caught in the traps we set. You just took advantage of it. Put it down now, or you won't leave." I laughed. Rob? It's not robbery. Song Dahu and Song Eru flanked me. Return it to its rightful owner. Fine. I threw the deer onto the snow, turned, and punched Song Dahu in the face. Bang. He flew 2 or 3 meters, his face swollen like a pig's head. Song Eru swung his shotgun at my back, but it hit me like a rock, jarring his hand. Is that all the strength you have? I turned around, snatched his gun, and bent it casually. Crack, the barrel bent. Then I kicked him, and Song Eru flew into a snowdrift, unable to get up for a while. From now on, when you see me, take a detour. I stepped on the other shotgun and bent it, or I'll beat you every time I see you. The two brothers clutched their stomachs and groaned. Yes, Brother Qing, we're sorry. I hoisted the deer and headed back to the village. At the village entrance, I ran into Uncle Song, who was sunbathing and smoking his pipe at his doorstep. A 70-year-old veteran hunter who had hunted all his life. "Qingzi, did you shoot this?" He rubbed his old eyes, recognized the sick deer on my shoulder, and was so shocked he almost dropped his pipe. "Yeah, lucky. With a horn bow?" "Yes." Uncle Song was speechless for a long time, then sighed. "Boy, have you changed?" "It's time to change." I said, "Uncle Song, I'll bring you a deer leg later." No need. I know your situation." He tapped his pipe. "Don't gamble anymore. Take good care of your wife. You had a good family before." "I know, Uncle." I headed home. Along the way, every villager I met stared wide-eyed. Song Qing. Has he turned over a new leaf? He caught such a big deer. That'll last for days. Anyway, it's a good thing. Otherwise his wife's life would be unbearable. I heard these words and quickened my pace. I pushed open the courtyard gate. Lu Sisi was chopping firewood in the yard. When she saw me carrying in the bloody deer, she froze. The axe in her hand clattered to the ground. You caught this?" "Yeah." I put the deer down and smiled at her. "We'll have venison tonight." She stared at me blankly, not moving for a long time. In those eyes that had once been full of humiliation and numbness, there was finally something different. I cleaned the venison, cut out a deer leg to take to Uncle Song, and kept the tenderest tenderloin to make soup. In the kitchen, Lu Sisi was busy at the stove, and I crouched in front of the fire adding firewood. The firelight reflected on her face, thin, cold, but her features were still so beautiful. Her sister Lu Yin, wrapped in a quilt, leaned against the doorframe, smelling the meat. Her little face finally had some color. "Brother-in-law, did you really catch this?" she asked softly. "Yeah." Lu Yin looked at me, then at her sister, and said nothing, but her eyes turned red. The soup was ready. The aroma of venison filled the whole room. I gave the first bowl to Lu Sisi. She took the bowl, lowered her head to look at the steaming meat, and squeezed and loosened the chopsticks in her hand. "Why aren't you eating?" She looked up at me and suddenly asked, "You today? Are you going to hit us again?" My heart felt like it was gripped. "No, I won't." I squatted down, looking into her eyes. "Sisi, I was a beast before. From today on, I'll change. You watch, day by day." She said nothing, lowered her head, and drank the soup sip by sip. Tears fell into the bowl, but she didn't wipe them. Lu Yin sat beside her, also burying her head in the soup, her shoulders trembling slightly. Both of them were skin and bones. I clenched my fists and turned to look out the window. Outside, the wind and snow were fierce. But there was a fire in my heart. This fire is enough to burn for a lifetime. After the meal, I salted the remaining venison and hung it up, then split a few bundles of firewood and stacked them neatly. Then I rummaged through the rags hidden in the cabinet and sewed a simple animal trap. Tomorrow, I'll go deeper into the mountains. In this era, treasures are everywhere. All that's missing is the skill to get them. And I happen to have that skill. Before bed, Lu Sisi laid down on the Kong, turning her back to me. I sat on the edge of the Kong, looking at her back, and said softly, "I'll deal with Song Er's account tomorrow. He won't dare to harass you again." She didn't turn around, but her shoulder moved. I added, "As for your sister, I guarantee no one will ever set their sights on her again." She remained silent. After a long time, so long that I thought she had fallen asleep, a very soft came from the head of the Kong. Just one word, but I could hear the crack in the ice. I lay down, staring at the dark beams. The despair of jumping off the building in my previous life still lingered in my bones, but at this moment, my heart was full of gratitude. Heaven gave me a chance to start over. In this life, Lu Cece is with me. I'll make sure she eats meat at every meal, keeps warm, and smiles. What I owe her, I'll repay with my whole life. Outside, the wind howled, and the lingering aroma of venison soup hadn't dissipated. I closed my eyes and slept the first peaceful sleep since my rebirth. Tomorrow is a new day, and this life is still long. It's a good thing after all, otherwise his family's life would really be unbearable. At home, Yin Yin, are you feeling better now? Lu Cece used a hot towel to wipe Lu Yin Yin's face, looking at the malnourished little face, feeling a pang of pain in her heart. Sister, I felt better after eating some porridge at noon. But now my stomach is hungry again. Lu Yin Yin touched her sunken belly and forced a faint smile. You've suffered because of me, alas. Lu Cece felt both self-blame and helplessness. When she came to the countryside as an educated youth, she had promised her parents to take care of her sister. But now, she felt desperate. It's almost nightfall. I'll cook some more porridge. No, sister. I'm afraid if I eat too much, brother-in-law will sell me again. I don't want to be sold. I don't want to leave you. Lu Yin Yin quickly grabbed Lu Cece, who was about to get up, fear showing in her eyes. I'll just lie down. I'll fall asleep and won't be hungry. Looking at her sensible and pitiful sister, Lu Cece's eyes once again shed tears uncontrollably. Sister, don't cry. If you cry, I'll cry too. Lu Yin Yin hugged her sister. Sister won't cry. Sister just feels ashamed of mom and dad's instructions, ashamed of you. Qing, who had just carried the sick deer into the yard, heard the conversation between the two sisters inside the house, and suddenly stopped. After rebirth, his hearing was extraordinary, so he could naturally hear their conversation. Alas, these words made him feel uncomfortable, but he also knew that saying 10,000 apologies now was useless. What he could do now was to change himself and gradually let his wife and sister-in-law feel his care and love. He put the sick deer down in the yard and walked into the house. Cece, it's almost nightfall. Light the fire and cook. Don't skimp on the rice, cook more. Tonight, we'll eat venison. Qing leaned against the door and said to Lu Cece inside. Lu Cece looked at the tall figure at the door and saw the sick deer in the yard through the gap, a surprised expression on her face. Her husband had gone hunting at noon and brought back a sick deer? Without waiting for Lu Cece's response, Qing walked to the kitchen, took out a large plate, came to the yard, and began to skillfully process the sick deer with his hunting knife. Inside the house, Lu Yin Yin propped herself up and craned her neck to look outside. And when she saw the sick deer weighing over 100 catties, she couldn't help swallowing. Sister, brother-in-law actually brought back a sick deer. Can we really eat meat tonight? Probably yes. Lie down a bit more, I'll go cook. Lu Cece patted her sister's head and turned to busy herself in the kitchen. In the yard, Qing's knife skills were swift, skinning, gutting, deboning, and cutting meat. He had learned all this from his father. It could be said that in this countryside, most men would go hunting in the mountains, so handling prey was second nature. In less than an hour, he had processed the 100-catty sick deer. He got about 120 catties of meat, not bad. He put most of the venison in the cellar, then took 5 catties of venison, some offal, and some deer blood into the kitchen. Put the deer blood in with the rice and cook it. Tonight, we'll have deer blood rice. You can cook the venison however you like. I'll make the offal into a stew. Qing placed a plate of meat in front of Lu Cece. Lu Cece nodded slightly, not daring to meet Qing's gaze. The two worked together in the kitchen, and seeing that his wife was still somewhat afraid of him, Qing didn't rush to show off, but quietly busied himself with what he was doing. Thus, the two worked in silence. Soon, the special aroma of venison and deer blood rice filled the entire kitchen and even drifted through the living room into the bedroom. Lu Yin Yin sniffed with her small nose, feeling her stomach grow even hungrier. Can I really eat meat tonight? Lu Yin Yin was both eager and worried. A few days ago, she was scolded by her brother-in-law for eating half a bowl more of plain porridge. Would he not let her sit at the table tonight? While Lu Yin Yin was anxious and worried, more than half an hour passed. Deer blood rice, stewed venison, and offal soup were placed on the table. The three sat around the table. At this moment, Lu Yin Yin's eyes were fixed on the venison, but she didn't dare to pick up her chopsticks. Instead, she stole glances at her brother-in-law from the corner of her eye, a look of unease occasionally appearing on her face. Yin Yin, eat. Why are you looking at me? Qing smiled at his sister-in-law, who had an oval face, though with a sallow complexion, yet delicate features, a beauty in the making. Brother-in-law, can I really eat? Lu Yin Yin widened her beautiful eyes. Eat as much as you want. Then I'll eat. Lu Yinyin couldn't wait to pick up a piece of braised meat and put it in her mouth. Since it was just out of the pot, it was so hot that she bared her teeth. "Cece, you eat too," Song Qing said as he picked up a piece of venison and put it in her bowl. This action made Lu Cece show a hint of surprise. But then she lowered her head and silently ate her rice. Song Qing's change today made her feel confused and surprised. First, he drove away Song Then he went hunting in the mountains. And now his attitude towards her and her sister seemed to have changed significantly. Especially the act of putting food in her bowl just now. He had never done that before. But she didn't think Song Qing had changed for the better. Because in the past, whenever her husband wanted to do something bad, he would take the opportunity to be a little nicer to her and her sister in advance. A few days ago, after he incurred gambling debts, his attitude towards her had improved quite a bit. Unexpectedly, in the end, she was coaxed into giving him a bracelet passed down from her father to pay off the debt. Another example is that a few days ago, he suddenly treated her sister very well, buying her snacks and providing plenty of white rice. But in the end, his true nature was revealed. He wanted to sell her sister to pay off the debt. Later, when she stopped him, he became furious and starved her sister for several days. So now, seeing Song Qing's strange behavior, she felt not the slightest bit happy, but instead filled with worry. She didn't know what tricks her husband would pull in the coming days. Song Qing devoured 3 bowls of rice and several pounds of meat in one go. After being reborn, it seemed not only had his strength increased, but his appetite had grown too. At that moment, Lu Yinyin put down her chopsticks, but her eyes were fixed on the venison on the table. Full. Song Qing looked at his sister-in-law. "Brother-in-law, I'm full." Lu Yinyin's pretty face flushed. She had only eaten half a bowl of deer blood rice, and not much meat. So she was only about 60% full. "You didn't eat much just now, have some more," Song Qing said in a commanding tone. This. I'm afraid if I eat too much. Brother-in-law, you'll sell me again in a few days. Brother-in-law, I beg you, please don't sell me, okay? I'll eat less every meal from now on, please. Lu Yinyin looked at Song Qing pitifully. His sister-in-law's words made the smile on Song Qing's face freeze slightly. "Brother-in-law will never sell you again. I swear. Eat more, be good." Song Qing forced a smile again. "Really? Brother-in-law will never sell me again?" Lu Yinyin blurted out. "Yes. Then I'll really eat. Eat more." Song Qing smiled. "Thank you, brother-in-law." Hearing this, Lu Yinyin quickly picked up a piece of venison and started eating. Lu Cece looked at her naive sister and sighed inwardly, wondering if she wasn't afraid that her brother-in-law was just a beast in human form for the time being. "Cece, you should eat more too. You've lost weight recently." Song Qing turned to his wife and said softly. Lu Cece nodded slightly and continued eating with her head down. "Brother Bao, Brother Chong, it's that house up ahead." Song pointed to the small courtyard ahead, saying that was Song Qing's home. Song Qing's wife was quite pretty, and his sister-in-law was also very beautiful. Girls from the city had very delicate skin. As long as the 2 big brothers could take down Song Qing, maybe they could even force him to sell his sister-in-law to us to pay off the debt. A few days ago, he was thinking of selling her, but today, for some reason, he seems like a different person. Song continued to introduce. The one called Brother Bao was Wang Bao, 1.9 meters tall, with a broad face, big mouth, and a bushy beard, looking fierce. Next to him, Zhang Chong was also 1.8 meters tall, broad-shouldered and thick-waisted, with a shaved head. He clearly wasn't someone to mess with. Both were local bullies from the surrounding villages, usually lazy and gluttonous, engaging in shady dealings, and secretly causing countless families to be ruined. Are you telling the truth? Are Song Qing's wife and sister-in-law really that attractive? Hearing this, Wang Bao's eyes gleamed with greed. Absolutely true. Song patted his chest to guarantee. Good, then we'll teach this Song Qing a good lesson later. And if he still can't pay his gambling debt, we'll make him hand over his wife and sister-in-law as payment. Wang Bao grinned viciously. The 3 chatted idly and soon arrived outside Song Qing's small courtyard. Inside the house, Song Qing heard the commotion, put down his chopsticks, quickly grabbed the oxhorn bow and arrows hanging on the wall, and strode into the courtyard. At that moment, at the courtyard gate, Song and the other 2 had already arrived. "Song Qing, get the hell out here. I said I'd teach you a lesson today, and I will. If you don't pay your gambling debt today, I'll break your legs." Song started shouting before even stepping into the courtyard. Song Qing saw that Song had indeed brought 2 tough guys. In the past, he might have been at a disadvantage, not knowing if he could win, or whether the villagers would help him out. But after discovering his immense strength this afternoon, he felt no fear. Stop. If you dare take another step, don't blame my oxhorn bow for being blind. Song Qing shook the bow in his hand and said in a deep voice. Seeing the oxhorn bow in Song Qing's hand, the three of them stopped in their tracks. Inside the house, Lu Cece and her sister saw Song bringing people to the door, and worry appeared on her face. She could also tell that the two men Song brought were not easy to deal with. What if her husband couldn't hold them off? Are you trying to scare me? You wouldn't dare kill anyone, would you? Wang Bao's broad face showed a hint of disdain. Anyone can talk tough. Take a step forward and try? Song Qing snorted coldly. Song take a step forward and show him. I don't believe he really dares to act. Wang Bao gave Song a signal. Ah, me? Song was stunned. If he stepped forward, what if Song Qing really did something? Wouldn't he become a skewered meatball? He had seen Song Qing's ruthlessness this afternoon, and he couldn't guarantee whether Song Qing would really act. And if he did, he only had one life. If I tell you to go, you go. What are you afraid of? Zhang Chong kicked Song but from behind, causing him to lurch forward a step. Whoa! The next second, Song Qing drew his bow and knocked an arrow. The sound of the bow being drawn drew the attention of Wang Bao and the others. He really dares? Song was so scared he immediately stood still, not daring to move forward. What's going on? At that moment, Song Qing's neighbor, Song Fuguwei, and his son Song Yukai heard the commotion and came out. Uncle Fuguwei had a good relationship with Song Qing's father. Both were hunters. And since Song Qing's father passed away, Uncle Fuguwei's family had often helped him out from time to time. Song Yukai and Song Qing were childhood friends who grew up together, and they had a close bond. Song what are you doing? Bringing outsiders to bully Song Qing? Song Fuguwei demanded sternly. Uncle Fuguwei, I'm not here to bully Song Qing. But Song Qing owes me 20 yuan in gambling debts, and I'm here to collect what's rightfully mine. Uncle Fuguwei, I advise you not to meddle in other people's business. Song naturally looked down on Song Fuguwei and his son. If he owes a debt, you come to collect. Why bring so many people to his door? I think you're just trying to bully Song Qing. Song Fuguwei knew Song was no good, and suspected he had secretly tricked Song Qing. That's right, if you want to bully Brother Qing, I won't stand for it. Song Yukai straightened his back and said. At that moment, the commotion grew louder, and the neighbors all came out to see what was happening. Isn't that Wang Bao? That's Zhang Chong. Why have these two bullies suddenly shown up? They look like trouble. Forget it, let's just watch from a distance. Except for Uncle Fuguwei and his son, the other neighbors just watched from afar, with no intention of coming over to help. Song I made it clear this afternoon that you and your accomplices cheated me first. What gambling debt? You cheated and still expect me to owe you money? Song Qing snorted coldly. Song Qing, what evidence do you have that we cheated? Song said with a straight face. Then what evidence do you have that I owe you a gambling debt? Do you have an IOU? Song Qing chuckled. Although his original self was a beast and scum, he wasn't really stupid. After owing the gambling debt that night, Song forced him to sign an IOU, but he pretended to be drunk and lay on the ground. At that time, Song thought he had Song Qing under control. If he didn't pay, he could just have someone beat him up and he'd comply, so the IOU didn't matter. He didn't expect that today the other party would deny the debt. Why waste words with him? Beat him up and he'll stop being stubborn. Wang Bao was getting impatient. Right? Beat him up and he'll be obedient. Zhang Chong and Wang Bao exchanged a glance. Wang Bao didn't believe Song Qing would actually dare to shoot them with a bow and arrow in front of so many people. He had seen plenty of people who were tough for a moment. When it came to being ruthless, he had never feared anyone. The more you're intimidated by the enemy, the more passive you become. Now we have to be fiercer than the enemy to scare them off. He could imagine that when the two of them made their move, Song Qing would hesitate. Then they'd get close and beat him up, and he'd behave. They'd seen and done this many times. Zhang Chong kicked Song but again. Song who hadn't reacted yet, jumped forward several steps. Taking advantage of this gap, Wang Bao and Zhang Chong rushed towards Song Qing from left and right. You're asking for it. Song Qing snorted coldly. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 3 arrows shot out from his hand. Thud, thud, thud. The 3 arrows landed one after another at the feet of Wang Bao, Zhang Chong, and Song Each arrow embedded into the ground, with only the fletching feathers at the end exposed above the surface. Yes, most of the arrow was buried underground. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The arrows were still vibrating violently. Wang Bao and Zhang Chong had only taken a few steps when they were frozen in place by this arrow. If they took one more step forward, the arrows would have hit them. 3 in a row. Such strength. Gasp. Looking at the arrow in front of their feet, most of it buried in the ground. How much strength would that take? Anyway, they had only seen it in storybooks, never in real life. At this moment, Wang Bao and Zhang Chong's backs were soaked with cold sweat. Sweat was also beading on their foreheads. One arrow had intimidated them. Outside the door, Uncle Fugue and Song Yukai were also stunned speechless. Dad, I didn't see wrong, did I? How is Brother Qing so strong? He almost pulled that hornbow apart. Song Yotsai's mouth hung open. Take one more step forward and try. The next arrow won't be aimed at your feet, but at your heads, Song Qing said with a stern face. Wang Bao and Zhang Chong were intimidated by Song Qing's aura and couldn't say a word for a moment. Not to mention his skill with 3 arrows in a row, just his strength alone. Could the two of them really beat him in close combat? Plus, with others backing Song Qing now, the outcome was uncertain. Song slow to react, saw the arrow buried in the ground less than 5 centimeters from his foot and was so scared he wet his pants. Having narrowly escaped death, Song nearly broke down. So close, so close. If Zhang Chong had kicked him a bit harder, he would have been skewered. He used to bully the weak and fear the strong, but now he had met a tough opponent and he was truly scared. Brother Qing. No, Master Qing. I was wrong. You don't owe me money. I'm sorry. I'll go back now. Song said with a pale face, and then turned and ran. Damn. Seeing Song scared and running away put Wang Bao in a difficult position. He cursed inwardly that Song was a coward. After today, his reputation would suffer. Ha ha ha. Song got scared and ran away. Song Yukai burst into laughter. A wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. Wang Bao and Zhang Chong exchanged glances and had already thought of retreating. Humph, we'll let you off today. There will be another day. Wang Bao turned and left. Zhang Chong quickly turned and followed. Watching their retreating figures, Song Qing then looked at the villagers watching from afar, and the murderous intent in his eyes flickered and disappeared. Inside the house, Lu Cece had been full of worry, afraid her husband couldn't resolve this crisis, but she didn't expect him to drive away those bullies in a few moves, which surprised her. Sister, how did brother-in-law become so strong? Look at those 3 arrows. Lu Yanyan showed a look of fear. If that strength were used on me and my sister, wouldn't it? What happened in the yard? Those 2 bullies just left? I also saw Song wet his pants. Really? The onlookers in the distance had no idea what happened in the yard. They only knew that after arguing for a while, the 3 ran off in disgrace. Disperse, disperse, everyone disperse. Uncle Fugue, Yukai, thank you for standing up for me earlier. Song Qing walked to the door and expressed his gratitude to Song Fugue and Song Yukai. Not at all. You were the one who intimidated them all by yourself. Song Fugue waved his hand with a smile. Of course, they had really wanted to help, but they didn't expect Song Qing to scare off the enemies in a few moves. Brother Qing, how did you become so strong? Song Yukai looked at the 3 arrows embedded in the ground, looking puzzled. He had grown up with Song Qing. Why hadn't he noticed before that Song Qing was so strong? That's because you never noticed before. Song Qing smiled and didn't explain further. By the way, Uncle Fugue, wait a moment. Saying this, Song Qing ran to the cellar, cut a deer leg, and also cut a few pounds of deer offal. Uncle Fugue, I had good luck today. I hunted a deer, take some back to try. As he spoke, he handed the deer leg and offal to Uncle Fugue. You shouldn't. Keep it for yourself. My family doesn't lack this food. I know your situation. Keep it for yourself. You might not have such good luck next time, so eat sparingly. Song Fugue quickly refused. Yes, Brother Qing, keep it for yourself. Uncle Fugue, if I tell you to take it, you take it. Since my father passed away, you and Yukai have taken good care of me. If you don't take it, how can I dare to come to you for help next time I'm in trouble? Song Qing forced the deer leg into his hands. You. Sigh, all right. Hearing Song Qing say that, Uncle Fugue had no choice but to accept it, thinking to himself that he would help Song Qing more in the future. On the way back, Song Yukai said to Song Fugue, Dad, Brother Qing seems like a different person. He hasn't gone hunting in the past 2 years, but today he not only brought back a deer, but also became very assertive. He drove away Song and the others in a few moves. Wasn't he on good terms with Song before? It's always good to stay away from people like Song who make a living through shady means. I hope he has really changed, otherwise Lu Cece and her sister will have a hard time with him. Song Fugue sighed. After seeing Uncle Fugue off, Song Qing returned to the house. You all continue eating. I'm going out for a while. After saying this to his wife and sister-in-law, he picked up the horn bow, went to the cellar to cut another deer leg, and also brought some deer blood, then headed to Uncle Song's house. Knock, knock, knock. Arriving at Song Jiamin's door. Who is it? Song Jiamin's voice came from inside. It's me, Qingzi. Song Qing called out. Creak. Song Jiamin opened the door and saw Song Qing holding a deer leg and a basin of deer blood. Didn't I tell you not to bring deer legs to me? Keep them for yourself. You're supporting 2 women now, while I'm alone with no one else to feed. Take it back. Song Jiamin pretended to be angry. Song Jiamin's wife died in childbirth when she was young, but the baby girl survived and later grew up and married. He never remarried, so he was indeed alone. Uncle, I have a favor to ask this time, so I had to bring something. Can you let me in first? Song Qing said with a smile. A favor? Song Jiamin was taken aback. Yes. Come in quickly. Inside. Song Qing put down the deer leg and deer blood, then took off the horn bow from his back. Uncle, this family heirloom horn bow hasn't been used for a long time. And when I used it today, I found some damage. You're the only one in the village who can repair horn bows, so I came to ask for your help. Song Qing got straight to the point. When he intimidated Song and the others, he used a bit too much force, and the horn bow, which had been neglected for years without maintenance, had several places damaged. If it's not repaired, it will probably be ruined soon. Song Jiamin took the horn bow and looked at it, then said, the knock is indeed cracked and needs to be replaced. The horn part also needs to be re-glued and reinforced. Can it be repaired well? Song Qing asked with concern. Now that he didn't have a hunting rifle at home, he would rely entirely on this horn bow for hunting in the coming days. The repair shouldn't be a problem. How long will it take? Song Qing asked again. By noon tomorrow, you can come pick it up. I happen to have some spare parts for the horn bow at home. Song Jiamin said. All right, then thank you, uncle. After putting down the horn bow, Song Jiamin glanced at the basin of deer blood. This deer blood is not bad. It's been a while since I've had deer blood wine. How about having a drink with this old man? I'd be honored to oblige. Song Qing readily agreed. Soon, Song Jiamin brought out a jar of strong liquor and started making deer blood wine with the deer blood. After 2 cups, Song Qing felt a warmth in his stomach, and even the blood and qi in his body seemed to become more active. Qingzi, I've watched your father and you grow up. Your father passed away early, and you've had a hard time these years, but today I saw you hunt a deer, and I'm very gratified. Promise me, uncle, that you won't get involved in gambling again, okay? Live a good life with your wife. After a few drinks, Song Jiamin opened up. Song Qing felt a warmth in his heart upon hearing this. He knew that Song Jiamin had always cared about him, and he had advised him many times since he had given up on himself and gotten involved in gambling. Now seeing that the other party was still advising him, he simply didn't want to see him have no way back in the future. Uncle, I've already turned over a new leaf and will live a good life from now on. Song Qing said solemnly. That's good. Come, let's have a toast. Cheers. Late at night, Song Qing returned home reeking of alcohol. Cece, open the door. Song Qing knocked on the door and called out. Soon, footsteps were heard from inside the house. Creak. The door opened. Lu Cece immediately smelled the alcohol on Song Qing. He's been drinking again. For the past 6 months, whenever he drank, he would hit her. She instinctively stepped back, a hint of fear in her eyes. Song Qing noticed her expression, and thinking of the beastly things he had done before, he sighed inwardly. Have you cleaned up the dishes? Song Qing asked softly. Yes, everything is cleaned up. Then go to bed. Tonight, you and Yin Yin sleep together, and I'll sleep in the side room. Song Qing knew that his wife was now like a startled bird at any of his movements, because she was too afraid of him. Maybe if they slept together tonight, she wouldn't be able to sleep at all. Lu Cece was slightly stunned. She wondered if she had heard correctly. In the past, when Song Qing drank, he would not only hit her, but also do that beastly thing. Why had he changed today? He was sleeping alone in a room? He didn't need her to accompany him? Go ahead, it's late. With that, Song Qing didn't explain further and walked straight to the side room. Watching Song Qing leave, Lu Cece was thoughtful. Master bedroom. On the bed, Lu Cece and Lu Yinyin lay on the Kong. Sister, I noticed that brother-in-law seems to have changed today. He's better than before. He said he won't sell me anymore, and he let me eat so much meat. Lu Yinyin whispered. Lu Cece tapped her sister's nose and scolded softly. You're so naive. You believe everything he says? Just because he gives you a little benefit, you forget how he treated us before? Just a few days ago, he was thinking of selling you. Maybe he's just playing hard to get now. But he swore during dinner tonight. Swore? Humph. Thinking about the injuries on her body this morning, Lu Cici's eyes dimmed. Can you trust the oath of a gambler? Only her naive sister would believe it. Sister, don't you think he's changed? Today, Song came to cause trouble. That scoundrel wanted to take advantage of you. And you saw how brother-in-law beat him up. It was satisfying. Brother-in-law cares about you. That's why he beat that scoundrel so badly. Lu Yinyan added. You always forget the pain when someone is nice to you. You'll suffer losses in the future. Lu Cici pinched her sister's cheek. Sister, that's not true. I just feel that my intuition tells me brother-in-law has become better. Lu Yinyan pouted. All right, it's late. Let's sleep. We still need to get up early tomorrow. Okay, side room. Just as Song Qing lay down, he felt his body getting hot. Damn, this dear blood wine really works. I'm a bit longing for my wife. But he had just voluntarily chosen to sleep alone in a room. But thinking of Lu Cici's reactions just now, he sighed inwardly. She's not proactive or willing, so I'd better not touch her for now. She needs time to adapt to my change. Suddenly, the conversation between the two sisters in the master bedroom reached Song Qing's ears. If it weren't for his extraordinary hearing, he wouldn't have heard it. Hearing that his wife was still wary of him made him feel guilty inside. With guilt, Song Qing fell into a deep sleep in a daze. At dawn, he got up to prepare breakfast. But when he went to the kitchen, Lu Cici was already busy in the kitchen. So early? He had gotten up early to make a loving breakfast for his wife and sister-in-law. But he didn't expect his wife to be earlier than him. Song Qing suddenly appearing behind Lu Cici startled her. After recovering, his wife nodded slightly and turned back to continue washing the rice. Cook more, this isn't enough. I'll go cut a few caddies of venison. There's not much rice left at home, we need to save. Lu Cici said softly. Now the family was destitute. For the past 6 months, Song Qing had been out fooling around every day, not going to collective work, relying entirely on her and her sister to earn work points. Since last month, their county had become one of the pilot areas for the household contract responsibility system, one of the earliest areas in northeast rural areas to adopt the system. It was said that a big shot from the township held a position there, so they got the pilot qualification earlier. In fact, in 1979, although reform and opening up had been going on for a year, it was still a transitional period. Most rural areas still used the commune system, distributing grain and income based on work points. But now the family's land was entirely managed by the two sisters, and it was the season when the old crop was exhausted and the new one not yet ripe. Soon, their family would run out of food. Don't worry, I'll solve the food problem. We should eat well. Song Qing waved his hand. Better to save. In this weather, the fields can't grow crops yet, and it will take a long time for grain to grow. Lu Cici hesitated. What she really wanted to say was that although her husband had been lucky to hunt a deer yesterday, could he guarantee a catch every day in the future? She understood the principle of eating without producing. Besides, there was only half a bag of rice left at home. What would they do in the coming months? Listen to me. I won't let you two sisters go hungry. With that, Song Qing scooped a large bowl of rice from the sack and poured it into the pot. All right. Lu Cici didn't insist further. Song Qing naturally saw Lu Cici's concerns. But with his current abilities, he was confident that he wouldn't let his wife and sister-in-law go hungry. Soon, Song Qing went to the cellar and cut 3 caddies of venison. Just as he was about to cook the venison, he found that the salt jar at home was almost empty, and the lard had also been used up when stewing the venison last night. I need to find a way to get some household supplies. Song Qing thought to himself. An hour later, at the dining table. Wow, meat again. Lu Yinyan's eyes lit up at the large plate of salted venison stew. Although she had eaten venison last night, she wanted to eat it again after waking up. It couldn't be helped. She hadn't eaten meat for 6 months. Now she wished she could have meat every day. Eat as much as you want. Song Qing said with a smile. Cici, you should eat more too. As for the land at home, you can go work on it if you want, or not. Staying at home is fine too. I can support both of you by hunting. Song Qing picked up a piece of venison and put it in Lu Cici's bowl. What's the use of farming? Can it make you rich? No. Taking advantage of the fact that hunting won't be banned for the next few years, he must rely on hunting to build up the family's wealth. Hearing her husband's words, Lu Cici was slightly surprised. Had he really changed? But thinking about the difficulty of hunting, she felt Song Qing was talking nonsense. No one in the whole village could support a family by hunting alone. Even an old hunter like Uncle Song wouldn't dare to boast like that when he was young. Do you think you can hunt deer, wild boars, and other large animals every few days? If you only catch pheasants or rabbits, with so many mouths to feed, Your own family might not have enough to eat, let alone sell them. And pheasants and rabbits don't sell for much anyway. Of course, she only thought about these things in her mind. The land still needs to be planted. If you want to go hunting, go ahead. The land and I are enough. Lu Sisi said softly. She didn't expect Song Qing to help either. Okay. Seeing his wife's insistence, he didn't say much more. During breakfast, Song Qing's peripheral vision occasionally observed his wife. He had been reborn yesterday, and today he was still a bit dazed. Suddenly, he noticed that his wife's cotton-padded jacket was full of patches, and there were even 2 or 3 small holes that hadn't been mended yet. The jacket was also a bit dirty, probably because she had no other jacket to change into, so she didn't dare to wash it. He then looked at his sister-in-law, who was wearing the jacket left by his mother before she passed away. It also had more than a dozen patches. Seeing this, Song Qing felt a pang of sadness. They had really suffered a lot with him. They didn't even have a decent piece of clothing. I need to find a way to get supplies. Song Qing vowed in his heart. And as soon as possible. After breakfast, his wife and sister-in-law went out to work in the fields. Actually, Song Qing also thought about going to help. But then he thought that instead of wasting time planting, he might as well use that time to hunt. Can planting solve the immediate problem of food and clothing? Can planting solve the immediate difficulties? No. He was clear about that. With that thought, he took down all the arrows hanging on the wall. He also brought the hunting knife and headed towards Uncle Song's house. Knock, knock, knock. Who is it so early in the morning? Song Jianmin's voice came from inside the house. When he opened the door and saw it was Song Qing, he smiled and said, "Why are you here so early? Are you thinking about your hornbow?" Hee hee. Uncle, I just wanted to see how the repair was going. Song Qing scratched his head. Being old, I drank some deer blood wine last night and couldn't sleep in the middle of the night. So I fixed your hornbow in the latter half of the night. I was planning to bring it to you after breakfast, but it's good that you came now. Song Jianmin laughed. It's repaired? Uncle, you've worked hard. It's all my fault for the deer blood, keeping you up in the middle of the night. Song Qing looked apologetic. For someone his age, not being able to sleep in the middle of the night can really affect health. What if he also has high blood pressure? That's no joke. It's no big deal. Come, I'll get your hornbow for you. Song Qing nodded and followed him in. After a while, when he saw the hornbow in his hands, a smile appeared on his face. After Uncle Song's repair, he could see it looked brand new. By the way, have you eaten? Yes. Are you planning to go into the mountains again today? Seeing Song Qing's eager look, Song Jianmin roughly guessed. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come early in the morning to check on the progress. Clearly, he wanted to go into the mountains again. That's the plan. The family lacks everything, so I need to hunt more game to improve the situation at home. Song Qing didn't intend to hide it. Seeing Song Qing so motivated, Song Jianmin showed a gratified smile. This kid must really have turned over a new leaf. Your idea is good, but you need to be careful when hunting in the mountains. Now that the snow has sealed the mountains, the wolves, jackals, and tigers are all hungry. If you encounter them, it's very dangerous. You need to be careful, and if you do run into them, avoid them. Song Jianmin warned seriously. It's best to find someone to go into the mountains with you for safety. If I weren't so old, I would have accompanied you today. Don't worry, Uncle, I know. I only have one life. Since it's still early, I'll be off. Song Qing said warmly. Go ahead, be careful. Okay. Carrying the hornbow on his back, Song Qing left the village and headed straight for the mountains. With his current strength and archery skills, he wasn't afraid even if he encountered wolves, jackals, or tigers, and he was confident he could take them down. By mid-morning, Song Qing had already reached the depths of the mountains. Along the way, he hadn't found any decent prey, mainly because resources were scarce for everyone these days. Anyone with a shotgun, bow, or who knew how to set traps would come to the mountains to try their luck. There was no choice. They were too short of food. What did this lead to? It led to fewer and fewer prey in the mountains. His tracking experience was still very poor. Earlier, Song Qing had spotted some snow rabbit tracks in the distance, but following the tracks, he got confused and eventually lost them. In the end, he didn't find the snow rabbit's den, mainly because in his previous life, he only learned hunting from his father half-heartedly. If only he could train a hunting falcon. I can understand bird language. Then I could just release the falcon into the sky, and I would see all the animals active within a few kilometers. Song Qing thought to himself. The weather is getting colder, and finding food is getting harder. Why is this winter so long? Yeah, yesterday I saw a family of silly roe deer freeze to death, probably because they couldn't find food. At that moment, on a nearby branch, a few pine siskins were huddled in a bird's nest, chirping. To Song Qing's ears, they were gossiping. A family of silly roe deer froze to death? but they didn't say where, so he could go and pick up the leftovers. In the winter in the Northeast, silly roe deer are indeed one of the animals that are more likely to freeze to death, mainly because silly roe deer are small and have short legs, making it difficult to move in deep snow. They can easily get stuck in the snow and die from hypothermia. Most importantly, silly roe deer might not be very smart. They don't proactively dig through snow to find food, so when the snow is thick, they face the dual threats of hunger and hypothermia. So in winter, if you can find leftovers in the mountains, silly roe deer are the most common. This winter is indeed colder than previous years. Song Qing exhaled a breath, and the cold air entered his lungs, causing a slight sting. Please don't snow again tonight. Song Qing continued to listen carefully to the chatter of the pine siskins, but he didn't hear any useful information. It seems understanding bird language isn't omnipotent. During the whole morning, he encountered several species of birds, but none of them gave him information about where prey was. It seems that learning about the 3 cicada from the sparrows yesterday was indeed a stroke of luck. Thinking about this, he felt more and more that he should train a hunting falcon or other bird to serve as his scout. Otherwise, relying on luck from the birds in the forest wasn't stable. I still need to keep looking. Song Qing braved the cold wind and continued deeper into the mountains. Along the way, he listened to the sounds of various birds around him, but by a little after 1 in the afternoon, he still hadn't made any significant gains. These birds, maybe they're just silly, but most of what they talked about was nonsense. Hungry. He looked at the sky and guessed it was past noon. Song Qing climbed up a big tree and took out a boiled venison wrapped in oil paper from his chest. It only had some salt flavor, but it was very fragrant. Wild game. It would be almost impossible to eat in later generations. As he ate, he looked down from a height to see if there was anything. Those tracks over there. Suddenly Song Qing noticed. About 100 meters ahead, there was a trail of footprints that looked like wild boar tracks. Although he had only learned hunting half-heartedly from his deceased father, he could still distinguish wild boar tracks from those of other large animals. Follow them. Song Qing quickly swallowed the venison in a few bites, jumped down from the tree, and hurried forward. He reached the 100-meter distance in no time. Sure enough, in the snow, there was a trail of footprints shaped like plum blossoms or maple leaves. Because wild boar footprints in the snow have that shape, and wild boars have 4 toes on their feet. The front 2 bear most of the body's weight, so the footprints on the ground only show the shape of the front 2 toes. It hadn't snowed this morning. The wind wasn't strong either, so he couldn't tell when the footprints were left. Song Qing found it hard to judge at the moment. If they were left in the morning, he definitely wouldn't catch up. If they were left at noon, there might still be a chance to encounter the boar. Let's go over and take a look first. Song Qing perked up, took the horned bow off his back, and followed the trail of footprints. Another half hour passed in the blink of an eye. After following the wild boar tracks for such a long distance, Song Qing suddenly noticed it was snowing. The footprints ahead were being covered by the falling snow. It won't be long before they're completely covered and the trail is lost. Damn it, I need to speed up. Song Qing quickened his pace. But a few minutes later, when he followed the tracks to a small earthen mound, the tracks disappeared at the mound because the snow on it was thick, and there had been a snowslide collapse. With the snow falling heavier, Song Qing circled the mound but found no more boar tracks. He had lost the trail. Song Qing was extremely frustrated. What heavy snow. Better find a place to take shelter quickly. Those 2 stupid boars at the foot of the mountain really have no shame, doing it there in such heavy snow. Aren't they afraid of freezing that thing? 2 magpies flew over Song Qing's head, chattering as they passed, disappearing into the dense forest in a blink. Boars. At the foot of the mountain? Hearing this, Song Qing's eyes lit up with excitement. Truly, you can search high and low for something and find it by chance. He thought he had lost the trail, but unexpectedly he had found a new clue. At the foot of the mountain, Song Qing quickly looked around. He realized he was standing halfway up a mountain. The 2 magpies had said there were 2 boars at the foot of the mountain. It was most likely the foot of this very mountain. Song Qing hurried toward the foot, but as he approached, he slowed down more and more. At this time, the snow was falling heavier. A few minutes later, when Song Qing was about to reach the foot, he indeed saw 2 boars on a flat area at the foot of the mountain. 1 male and 1 female. The male looked about 200 jin, and the female over 200 jin. Seeing the state of the 2 boars, Song Qing was amazed. It had to be said that boars had good endurance, usually lasting 10 to 40 minutes. And it wasn't spring now, it was winter. They know how to have fun. But Song Qing didn't care what the boars were thinking. In their current state, they were definitely at their most off guard. Sneaking up and shooting them now was absolutely the best opportunity. He checked the wind direction and immediately moved to a different position. From downwind, he slowly approached the two boars ahead. With my strength and the range of this 10-dan horn bow, 150 meters should be a safe shot. Song Qing began to estimate. If this horn bow were new, or 15 dan, or even 20 dan, he was confident that even 200 to 300 meters would be no problem. At this moment, Song Qing was still 200 meters from the boars. He didn't dare walk upright or crouch, because it would be too easy to spot him. He could only lie flat on the snow, exposing just a little of his head, and crawl forward. 180 meters. 160 meters. Song Qing had already knocked an arrow on the horn bow, and he had knocked 2 arrows at once. Yes, he wanted to take down both boars. Not far away, the male boar seemed to be at a critical moment. The snow fell heavier, and even its eyes were glazing over. The female boar was also enjoying everything and didn't notice the danger creeping closer. 150 meters. Now, Song Qing quickly rose into a half-crouch from the ground. The 2 arrows were already knocked on the horn bow. His right arm muscles contracted and expanded, and he drew the 10-dan horn bow to a full moon shape. It made a creaking sound. At that moment, the 2 boars suddenly saw a human appearing not far away, drawing a bow and aiming at them. They finally reacted. The male boar immediately tried to break free and run. But at this critical moment, struggling only caused it to feel a tearing pain. It couldn't break free in a short time. Oink, oink, oink. Just as the 2 boars were panicking and squealing, the 2 iron arrows in Song Qing's hand shot out from his horn bow. Whoosh, whoosh. The 150-meter distance was covered in an instant. Song Qing's timing was perfect. The 2 boars were also in an awkward moment. Caught off guard, they couldn't react in time to escape. Thud, thud. The 2 boars let out miserable squeals. One arrow struck the male boar's side abdomen, and the other arrow, by coincidence, struck the female boar's head. The female boar died on the spot, while the male boar squealed incessantly, but finally struggled free from the sow. Blood kept gushing from the abdominal wound, and it spread its 4 hooves and ran toward the forest on one side. Still trying to run, Song Qing quickly chased after it. Although the male boar was injured, it had strong vitality, far surpassing that of a sick deer. In a blink, it charged into the snowy forest. Since his rebirth, Song Qing not only had great strength, but also greatly improved speed. Even at full sprint, though not as fast as the boar, he didn't let it escape his sight. Whoosh! From a distance of 200 meters, Song Qing shot another arrow. Thud! The male boar got another arrow in its rump, squealing in pain. But it still didn't stop. Instead, in its wounded and frenzied state, it darted around wildly. But as time passed, Song Qing noticed the boar's speed began to slow. The wounds, due to intense movement, caused more blood to flow, leaving a trail of blood all the way. Finally, after fleeing 2 kilometers, the boar collapsed directly, lying on the snow and groaning. Clearly, the injuries and excessive blood loss had left it unable to flee any further. Run. Keep running. Song Qing caught up, panting. After sprinting 2 kilometers at full speed, he was finally out of breath. But for an ordinary person, sprinting 2 kilometers at full speed would be nearly impossible. He drew the bow and knocked an arrow. Whoosh! 1 arrow hit the boar's head. Finally, this male boar met its end. Phew! 2 boars, a great harvest. Song Qing looked around and, after confirming there were no other large animals, walked over. He hoisted the boar weighing over 200 jin onto his shoulders, got his bearings, and headed back the way he came. When he returned to the foot of the mountain, he found the sow still lying there. Fortunately, no other predators had been attracted, probably because the heavy snow was masking the spread of the bloody smell. And so, Song Qing carried 1 boar on his shoulders and dragged the sow by its leg with 1 hand, heading back towards Song family village. For an ordinary person, it would be nearly impossible to carry both boars back alone, but fortunately Song Qing was strong. By the time it got dark, Song Qing had come down the mountain and was not far from Song family village. At home, the meal was already prepared. Sister, it's already dark. Why hasn't brother-in-law come back? Didn't he go hunting? Could he be? Lu Yanyan stood at the door looking outside, but she didn't see her brother-in-law returning. Lu Cici saw her younger sister still caring about that beast, and she couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Could her sister have really forgotten that a few days ago Song Qing was going to sell her to pay off a debt? Having eaten 2 meals of meat, she's forgotten the pain, right? Facing her sister, she shook her head for no reason. But at this moment, she was also a bit worried. Although Song Qing treated her badly, he He was still the pillar of the family. If something happened to him, her life would become even harder in the future. He probably won't have an accident. Lu Cece couldn't help but look into the distance. Just as the two sisters were getting anxious, some noise came from outside the yard. The next moment, Song Qing, carrying a boar on his shoulders and dragging another, gently kicked open the yard gate. "Brother-in-law, you're finally back. I thought you weren't coming back." Lu Yinyin saw that the person opening the door was Song Qing and immediately ran out from the house. "What kind of talk is that? Not coming back?" Song Qing was speechless. "Wow, is this a boar?" And two. Only then did Lu Yinyin notice that Song Qing had a boar on his shoulders and was dragging another. "Have you eaten? If I come back late in the future, you go ahead and eat. Don't wait for me." Song Qing threw both the wild boar on his shoulder and the one in his hand onto the snow in the yard. Seeing that Song Qing had brought back 2 more wild boars, Lu Cece showed a surprised expression. When did her husband become so good at hunting? "A sick deer yesterday, 2 wild boars today, and they look quite big." "You're injured?" Lu Cece came out and saw that Song Qing's clothes were stained with blood, and a trace of worry appeared on her face. Seeing the worry in his wife's eyes, Song Qing felt a warmth in his heart. "So she still cares about me?" "No, it's just blood from the wounds of the wild boars." Song Qing smiled and waved his hand. "By the way, you two help boil some water. I need to deal with these 2 wild boars right away, and early tomorrow morning I'll take them to the supply and marketing cooperative to sell for money." "Okay." Lu Cece nodded and pulled her sister to help. Originally, he wanted to take them directly to the brigade's supply and marketing cooperative. But thinking about it, the brigade in their few villages was relatively small. The village brigade's supply and marketing cooperative mainly sold basic daily necessities, such as salt, matches, kerosene, etc., with limited scale and variety. He needed to buy quite a few supplies for his family, so he simply planned to take the wild boars to the town supply and marketing cooperative early tomorrow morning to sell. Seeing his wife and sister-in-law starting to busy themselves in the kitchen, he went straight to Uncle Fugue's house next door. When he arrived, he found that Uncle Fugue's family had just finished dinner, and Aunt Fugue was clearing the dishes. "Qingzi, have you eaten?" Song Fugue asked with a smile when he saw Song Qing come in. "Yes, I have." But seeing that his cotton-padded jacket was covered in blood, his expression changed slightly, and he said, "What's with the blood on you?" "Wild boar blood. I had good luck today and hunted 2 wild boars. I just got back, and I want to deal with them as soon as possible, so I'd like to ask Uncle Fugue and Yukai to come help me handle them. Otherwise, I don't know how long it would take me alone." Song Qing got straight to the point. Butchering pigs is a bit troublesome. If he did it alone, it would probably take more than 3 or 4 hours. "You hunted 2 wild boars?" The 3 members of Uncle Fugue's family all stood up abruptly, extremely surprised. "My goodness, Qingga, since when did you become such a fierce hunter?" Song Yukai looked shocked. "Haha, Qingzi, you've surpassed your teacher. You've caught big game twice in a row. This is nothing. We'll come over and help right now." Uncle Fugue was both surprised and happy for Song Qing. "Auntie, you come over later and help with the offal and such. You can take some back with you too," Song Qing said to Aunt Fugue. "Then I won't be polite," Aunt Fugue said with a beaming smile. In these times, pig offal is a good thing. After all, it's meat. In Songjiaton, many families only had meat during festivals. "Aunt Fugue, you've helped me so much before. No need to be polite with me." Song Qing waved his hand. "I'll go back first. Come over when the water is boiled." "Okay." Watching Song Qing's departing figure, Aunt Fugue felt a bit emotional. Over the years, her husband had secretly helped Song Qing, and she had complained quite a bit. After all, their own family wasn't well off either. Plus, in the past 6 months, Song Qing had been a hopeless case, and they still helped him. It was just a waste of food. She had quarreled with her husband many times over this. Fortunately, yesterday Song Qing gave them a deer leg, and today he was going to give them pig offal. She could see that Song Qing was someone who knew how to repay kindness. When the water for scalding the pig hair was about to boil, Uncle Fugue's family of 3 also arrived. Wow, these 2 wild boars are not small. The big male boar looks like it weighs about 200 jin, and the female one about 220 or 30 jin. "Qingga, you're going to get rich," Song Yukai said with a smile. "Hunted with a horn bow?" Uncle Fugue looked at the wounds on the wild boars and was shocked again. "Yeah, but thinking about the power of those 3 arrows yesterday, this kind of archery hunting wild boars didn't seem like a problem." Next, the 3 men started pouring water, scraping hair, and gutting the pigs. The 3 women helped by handling the offal and such. In the blink of an eye, 2 hours had passed. The 2 wild boars were mostly processed. After all this work, everyone must be hungry. Let's make a pork feast. Song Qing looked and saw that the 2 wild boars, excluding offal and blood, could yield about 330 jin of meat and bones. You keep them to sell? We just ate not long ago. Uncle Fugue waved his hand. We must have a pork feast, and we'll have a few drinks later. Saying that, Song Qing cut a pig's trotter and also took some offal and blood, stuffing them into Aunt Fugue's hands. Auntie, take these home. We're short on pickled cabbage. Do you have any? Seeing the big pig leg and offal, Aunt Fugue beamed with joy. Yes, I just pickled some before winter. It's just right to eat now. I'll go home and get it. Qingzi, no need for the pig leg. You sell it. You already gave us a deer leg yesterday, and we haven't finished it yet. Uncle Fugue quickly stopped him. Uncle Fugue, don't be polite. Otherwise, next time I wouldn't dare to ask for your help. Come on, let's stuff the blood sausages. Song Qing pulled Uncle Fugue to help stuff the blood sausages. You sigh. Uncle Fugue sighed slightly. After another busy hour or so, Song Qing's family of 3 and Uncle Fugue's family of 3 enjoyed a steaming pork feast. Uncle Fugue also brought out his treasured sweet potato wine, and the men had a few drinks. Yukai, you should learn hunting from your Qinga from now on. Whether you can save up for a wife sooner depends on yourself. After 2 drinks, Uncle Fugue started lecturing Song Yukai again. Dad, I know, you've said this so many times. Song Yukai shrank his neck and muttered. I know, but you don't put your heart into learning when you hunt with me. Watching his friend being scolded, Song Qing couldn't help but laugh. Uncle Fugue, in a couple of days, if you're free, I'll have Yukai come with me into the mountains. Sometimes when there are many prey, it's hard for me to handle alone. He wasn't just saying that. If he encountered a lone prey, he could catch it easily. But what if he encountered a group? No matter how skilled he was, he could only hunt 1 or 2 at most. But with help, they could use tactics like encirclement, and the results would definitely be greater. Qinga, you're willing to take me? Song Yotsai's eyes lit up. As long as you're willing to follow me. Song Qing smiled. Hurry up and thank Qingzi. Uncle Fugue patted Song Yukai on the back of the head. Thanks, Qinga. Song Yukai grinned naively. Come drink. Uncle Fugue's family left. The wife and sister-in-law were clearing the dishes. So full. I haven't had a pork feast in a long time. I remember it was during the New Year last year, when the brigade killed a big fat pig, but I only got a piece of meat in my bowl. Lu Yanyan said contentedly while helping to clear the dishes. Seeing her sister's craving, Lu Sisi couldn't help but laugh. What are you 2 chatting about? Coming out of the bathhouse, Song Qing saw the 2 sisters chatting happily and couldn't help asking. Nothing. Lu Sisi lowered her head. Brother-in-law, will there be meat to eat tomorrow morning? Lu Yanyan blinked her cute big eyes and asked Song Qing. Yes, definitely. From now on, we'll have it every day? Song Qing smiled. Really? Definitely. Great. Brother-in-law, you're the best to me. After you finish cleaning up, go to sleep. I'm going to sleep too. I have to sell the wild boars early tomorrow morning. Seeing that his wife didn't seem to want to talk much with him, Song Qing didn't want to disturb her too much. He knew that his wife still harbored resentment and wariness towards him, and it would take time to slowly move her. On the Kong. Sis, I told you brother-in-law has changed. Look, today he gave Uncle Fugue's family a pig leg and stuff. If he hadn't had a change of heart, how could he do that? I think brother-in-law has now had a change of heart, turned over a new leaf, and wants to live well with you. Lu Yanyan said. Time reveals a person's heart. All right, go to sleep now. Lu Sisi's eyes showed a trace of recollection, recalling the torment she had suffered over the past 6 months, and her eyes also revealed a hint of confusion and numbness. Early the next morning, without even eating breakfast, he went to Uncle Fugue's house to borrow a cart, then put the 2 processed wild boars on the cart and hurried towards the town. When leaving the village, the early risers and villagers going to work in the fields saw Song Qing pushing the cart with the 2 wild boars, and they were all shocked. Song Qing, did you hunt those? Where are you going? Hiss, 2 wild boars. I heard you killed a deer the day before yesterday? I got them yesterday, just lucky. Song Qing responded with a smile. Wow, these 2 wild boars are not small. You're going to be rich. Together, these 2 boars must yield over 300 pounds of meat, right? Qingzi, when did you become such a good hunter? Can you take me with you next time? Where did you hunt them? Facing the villagers' questions and shock, Song Qing either responded with a smile or gave vague explanations. After leaving the village, Song Qing quickly pushed the cart towards the town. In the village, the news that Song Qing had hunted 2 big wild boars yesterday spread like wildfire. Many people were envious,